Okay, I guess we are ready to start now. So, good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll read about the electrocardiogram, that is ECG, the basics of electrocardiogram and the interpretation, how to interpret the basic ECGs that you see in your clinical practice. Few people are still adding in. I'll just do admit all, and I guess. Can you see the screen that I'm sharing? Yes. Okay, cool. So we'll start with ECG. What is ECG? ECG is basically electrocardiogram, which calculates the which measures the electric activity of your heart. The electric activity that is going on in your heart is captured by this electrocardiograph machine and converted into electrocardiogram, which is seen on the graph. So how is this electrical activity recorded? It is recorded by the electrocardiograph machine, which uses 12 different leads. Okay, 12 different leads are used, as you can see in this screen. There is lead 1. There are 3 standard leads, 3 augmented limb leads. So in total there are 6 limb leads and 6 chest leads. Can you see the cursor that I'm moving? Please type in the chat box if you can see the cursor. Some people can't hear me. Can you hear me? Everyone can hear me, right? Yes, because you're typing in the chat box. Yes, you can hear me. Okay. So there are 3 limb leads. There are 3 standard limb leads. There are 3 augmented limb leads, and there are 6 chest leads, which are used to interpret the electrical activity of the heart. Now, because our body is very good conductor of electricity, the electricity generated by the sinoatrial node of heart is always transferred to the skin, which is being picked up by these leads, and which is represented as the ECG graph. Okay, so these are the leads and these are the placement of the lead. Lead 1, the standard limb leads uses 2 different uh, leads of different current power. Say the left arm is always positive, the right arm is always negative, which together makes lead 1. As you can see, this is lead 1. Then there is right arm and left leg. The right arm is negative, as we already saw. The left leg is always positive, which makes lead 2. And then there is left leg and right arm. Here the right arm is negative for lead 3 and left leg is positive. This combination makes standard leads, and there are unipolar or augmented limb leads. Okay, one more thing, guys. If you have any doubts, you can just write it in the chat box, and at the end of the session, we will see all the doubts. Okay. So there are unipolar augmented leads. The unipolar augmented leads are placed at three places. That is right arm, and left leg. So these are unipolar leads, so they are not in the combination, and they have direct perpendicular access to the chest cavity, as you can see here. This, right? And they always have a reference electrode which is being placed at the other 3 places of the body. If say you take AVR which is placed on the right arm, it will have reference on rest 2 places. Then you have AVL, which is on the left arm. Please mute the mic. Yes, AVL on the left arm and AVF on the left foot. Then you have 6 chest leads. The 6 chest leads, of which V1 is placed on the 4th intercostal space next on the right hand side of the sternum. V2 is on the left side of the sternum at same 4th intercostal space. The mid-clavicular line in the 5th intercostal space is where you put V4. Between V2 and V4, there is V3. Between V2 and V4, there is V3. And then V5 is on the anterior axillary line of the body, same 5th intercostal space. And then mid-axillary line, V6. Okay. These are the okay guys, I don't think I'll be admitting people now. It's very late. You guys are not punctual. Okay. Right. So then this is the line of the flow of current or the vector by which the electrocardiograph will be recording. This is lead 1, that is negative on right hand side, positive on left, that we already saw. This is lead 2. Now lead 2 is the standard lead which you need to consider every time. We'll see why is it and what is the significance of it. Yeah. Okay. And then this is lead 3. This you can see the unipolar AVF, AVL and AVR perpendicular from your left hand, from your left foot and from your right hand. Okay. Now what because of the placement of these leads, what is the significance of the placement of these leads? You will understand on the basis of this, where the leads are placed, that which part of heart or which area of heart is it recording. Okay, according to that we can see that V2 and V4, basically V2, V3 and V4 is placed on the anterior chest wall, V2, V3, V4. So this will be covering the anterior part of your heart. Then you have V1 and V2, which is near the septum. Then you have lead 1, AVL, AV5, AVL, V5 and V6, which is covering the lateral wall, which is covering this, the lateral wall. You have all this V5 leads and V6 leads covering the lateral wall of your heart. So that is what the changes in these leads will indicate. This is really important from MI point of view, and we'll be seeing it further, that how does it affect our clinical diagnosis. The inferior wall by 2, 3 and AVF, as we can see, lead 2, lead 3 and AVF is all down on the lower surface of the heart. As you can see, it will be covering telling us about the inferior wall of the heart. So what are the electrical activity in the heart that take place? How does it take place? How does it flow? And what all recordings can we see on our ECG? So this is the basic electrical components, or the components that bring about the electrical activity in the heart. Here you can see is sinoatrial node. Sinoatrial node is always present in the top of the right atrium, which is the major generator of electricity in heart. Okay, so from here the impulse will be started. It will be traveling through interatrial fibers to left atrium and to the AV node. The AV node is the second stop for this electrical activities, which will be transferring electrical activity from AV node to the septal wall, where you can find there is bundle of His, and then right bundle, left bundle, and then Purkinje fibers. There are Purkinje fibers. So this is the basic movement of electricity, that is with the help of three fibers. It will be going here, then to the next atrium, and then AV node to bundle of his to right bundle and left bundle, and then to the Purkinje fibers. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So before this, I want you people to see this. Yes. So uh, here is the electrical activity and its correlation to the ECG that we see. So in ECG, we will be having basically three waves or three spikes that we see. Before this, I want you all to understand that we have we take standard lead as lead 2, which you already saw. I said standard lead as lead 2. In lead 2 we had sorry, yeah, standard lead 2, we had negative charge here and positive charge here on the left lower limb. So we need to understand, you just don't बाय हार्ट इट दैट हाँ पी वेव है तो ऊपर की तरफ होगा, क्यू है तो नेगेटिव होगा, आर है तो पॉजिटिव होगा. ऐसा नहीं है. ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? व्हाई इज दैट हैपनिंग दैट पी वेव इज पॉजिटिव, क्यू वेव इज नेगेटिव, आर वेव इज पॉजिटिव, एस वेव इज नेगेटिव? व्हाई? Okay, so this is because first we are taking the standard lead as lead 2, which we have negative charge here and positive charge here. There is always a galvanometer attached to the electrocardiogram graph or the electrocardiogram machine, which will be recording the flow of charges, the direction of flow of charges, and giving us this waves. So first, when we have seen that the electrical activity is starting from the sinoatrial node. So from the sinoatrial node, the charge will go here, here, here. There will be atrial depolarization or atrial systole. This atrial systole will give rise to wave P. You can see that wave P is positive in nature. Why is it positive in nature? So the entire cumulative charge of this atrial depolarization will form a vector. Okay, I'll change the color. I guess you're not able to see. It will make a vector. This vector will be in this direction. Okay. Okay, I'll make it again. Yeah. So the vector will be in this direction. This vector has positive charge on its end. Okay, so it is going from negative to positive because it is going towards positive. There is positive deviation. Then which creates a P wave. Then it reaches the atrioventricular node, the AV node at the AV septum. Here, the arrangement of cells is as such that the current conduction is very slow. It is very slow that it takes a little time to reach from this part of AV node to this part of bundle of His, because of which you get an isoelectric line. The transfer is so slow that the machine on our skin cannot detect this transfer of current, and that is why you get an isoelectric line. There is no deviation. Now here we reached bundle of His. Near bundle of His, the nature of this tissue is as such that there is rapid flow of charge from this part. But now the charge has to flow from the bundle of His to the cardiac tissue, which it is surrounding. So it will start from in to out. Matlab it will start generating impulses in this way. This way. So the cumulative vector, of this charge is in the opposite direction. The cumulative vector of this charge is in opposite direction, whose head is towards the negative charge. And that is why you see a negative deviation at Q wave. And now it has come from bundle of His to right and left bundle. Thus the septal depolarization will first give you Q wave. After the septal depolarization, the electric current is now moving towards the right and left bundle and Purkinje cells. Now this Purkinje cells are up till the end here. Okay, so the current will be flowing pura till the end. Before that, this is a very, very, very big tissue. This big tissue will contract with a larger velocity, the larger amplitude as compared to this small structures. And the flow will be from inwards to outward. Matlab, the cumulative vector will be in this direction, again towards the positive charge, and that is why you have R wave, which is positive wave. Now the current is moving from this base to the top of the edge of AV septum. Okay, so this AV septum here, as the current is flowing here, there is two small vectors that are formed, which are in this direction towards the negative charge, and that is why if you combine both of them, that is why you will get this small s wave. Now the entire depolarization event has been done. So the atrias have depolarized, the atrias have depolarized, your ventricular, the electric current has reached the bundle of His and everywhere, and your ventricles have depolarized. Now what? Now repolarization. But before this depolarization takes place, there is a little time gap for which the heart muscles will pause before repolarization. It is significant. What is the significance of that is there should be complete emptying of both the chambers, so that the blood reaches properly to all the other parts of the pulmonary aorta and this aorta normal. So that is why there is a little time when the repolarization starts. Well, atrial repolarization is already done, which will be overlapping with the QRS complex, and because the electric activity of ventricle is much larger than that of atrium, you cannot see atrial repolarization events. You cannot see atrial repolarization events in the graph, whatever whatever the recording is seeing. Okay. Now the repolarization that is taking place, the repolarization will be from the corners. I'm so sorry. Yes, the repolarization will be taking from the corners to the center. The direction of repolarization will be this. So the vector that is formed is negative because it is repolarization. There is efflux of the positive current from the body. There is rapid efflux of the positive current. Thus vector head is negative, and because negative is reaching towards negative, the charge will be positive, and that is why you get positive T. That is positive the positive deflection of ventricular repolarization. Okay, so I guess it's clear for you all that Y is the direction of the current this way, and that is why you can see in lead 1, lead 2, lead 3 have all of them have different directions, sometimes of p wave, there's an inversion or something like that, not pathological, but it is because they all see heart from different axis, from different view, and have different current on the each limb. That is why standard lead is lead 2, with which the heart's electrical activity coincides, and that reference that I had taken to make you people understand that why the waves are as they are. Okay, so now we can see in this, you can revise that atrial depolarization, there will be P wave, the delay at AV node because it takes some time. And the clinical reason, the clinical thing that is happening here is heart needs to pump all the blood from atria to the ventricle. The ventricles need to fill properly. If the ventricles start their depolarization, start pumping along with atria, that is of no use. They have to get filled first, and that is why there is a little delay at AV node of the electrical current. When there is complete ventricular depolarization, you get negative Q wave, positive R wave, and QRS complex is completed, then you have ventricular repolarization as T. Okay, so I hope that is clear now. Okay, now this is a normal ECG graph or a chart that you see. This is a normal electrocardiogram. Okay, so as you see, the paper, the ECG paper or the graph is different from normal graph that we use. It has big box and it has small boxes, but there are only 5 small boxes. There is 5 vertical lines and 5 horizontal lines in, I guess my course. Yeah. 5 5 horizontal lines and 5 vertical lines. So what is the significance of these big boxes and small boxes is, according to the rate of paper's speed, according to the paper's speed, you know that in 1 second, there will be 5 boxes that will be crossing. Whatever activity you see in these boxes corresponds to whatever activities you see in 5 boxes corresponds to the activity in the heart in 1 second. So if you see that 5 big boxes is equal to 1 second, you know that 1 big box is equals to 0.2 second. Okay, and if you divide this 0.2 second by 5, you'll get 0.04, which is the value of one small box. The value of this one small box is 0.4. Okay, so this is the horizontal value. Matlab, in 1 second it will move horizontally this way. What is the vertical dimension telling us? It is telling us the voltage or the intensity of the current in the uh, whatever it is recorded by the galvanometer and the galvanometer deflection. So two big boxes equal to 1 millivolt. One big box is equal to distance of 5 millimeter, or one small box is 1 millimeter. You'll understand the significance of this when we see the individual waves of ECG, because during when the patient is there, some sister or anyone is coming and giving you ECG, you need to read ECG fast, you don't have time. So you should understand कि हर एक वेव का एक पर्टिकुलर अमाउंट होता है, मतलब the number of boxes it will cover is predetermined. You cannot just sit there and calculate. You just know that P has to cover 2.5 small boxes. मतलब one box is 0.04 seconds, 0.04 into 2.5 or into 3 boxes. So it will be 0.08 to 0.12 seconds. Okay. So that I'll show you what are the normal values and everything when we see individual wave. This is just for you people to understand that how does the ECG paper look like and what are the significance of small boxes and big boxes. Big boxes will even help you to determine the heart rate. Okay, that we'll see later. Okay, now one important thing is we saw P wave, then we have an isoelectric line, we have Q wave, then R wave, then we have S wave, T wave, S wave, and then you have another isoelectric line, then you have T wave, and then you have U wave. Yeah, we'll talk about U wave later. Just keep your concentration from P to T. So we have different segments here which are time related and phase related or distance related. Time related is PR interval and QT interval. PR interval is from the start of atrial depolarization to the start of ventricular depolarization. That is the entire P wave along with the isoelectric line of P, Q or P, R segment, because Q wave is sometimes very negligible and it is not properly seen unless there's some kind of pathology in the ECG. So people are still adding, just a second. Okay, yeah. So wherever we, yes, the PR interval. So this PR interval tells you the entire amount of time the current is taking to generate from SA node to reach AV node before there is passage of current from AV node to bundle of disc. Now the next interval is QT interval. QT interval starts from the start of ventricular depolarization, start of ventricular depolarization to end of ventricular repolarization. Okay. In between this, you have ST segment. Segments are, please keep in mind, segment are distance related, that is phase related, and intervals are time related. Not much of significance, but this you will calculate in how much time it takes and this how much distance it has covered. Okay. So once again, PR interval from start of atrial repolarization to start of ventricular, atrial depolarization to start of ventricular depolarization, and QT interval from start of ventricular depolarization to end of ventricular repolarization. So this, someone's mic has been unmuted. Okay. So this is how the normal ECG looks like. Normal standard ECG that patient comes with is this. You can see all 12 leads on an ECG placed next to each other. On the left hand side of ECG, you will find there are the limb leads, the recordings of limb leads, that is 1, 2 and 3. Then there are augmented limb leads, AVR, AVL and AVF. And then you can see there are chest leads from V1 to V6. Chest leads from V1 to V6. Although usually there is standard lead 2, a continuous lead 2, which is uh, portrayed here down on the ECG. This ECG does not consist. This is just an example of how the ECG result looks like. Usually there is the demographics of the patient written here above, and some of the calculations are already done for you by the machines, which are written on top. It is important to mention the time and date of the ECG, because when you are correlating it with the patient coming with chest pain who you are evaluating for MI or STEMI or non-STEMI, it is important to note the time and date, because with that you have to correlate the enzymes, the blood enzymes like CKMB or trop-I-trop-T, that I'll be telling you later. Okay. Now, what does ECG tell you about? What all are the things that you have to see in ECG, or what information does ECG give you? about the patient. One, it will tell you what is the heart rate of the patient. Then it will tell you the axis. What is this axis? Axis is the uh, total electrical flow in the heart, from where to where it is going. It is a addition of all the vectors that I showed you earlier. Sorry. Yeah. So it will show you the axis. It will show you the axis, and then it tells you about the normal sinus rhythm. I'll be talking about it. What is a sinus rhythm and what are the changes in the sinus rhythm of the patient. It tells you about various cardiac pathologies. I'm so sorry. It tells you about various cardiac pathologies and the metabolic changes in the body. And the respiratory changes in the body. We will see one by one when we see about each and every wave, that how are these recorded and how are these interpreted. Okay, so yes, how do you calculate the heart rate in ECG? For calculating heart rate, always consider the standard limb lead 2, which is, I showed you that it is usually in this, for example, in this ECG, you are having lead 2 here, but usually there is a long lead 2 recording which is being portrayed here down on the ECG. Okay. So always consider lead 2 as the standard lead reference. Check for the regularity in the sinus rhythm. Yeah. So now what is sinus rhythm? Sinus rhythm is, there is P wave, then there is QRS complex, there is T wave. This every P wave followed by QRS complex and ended with T wave is a sinus rhythm. Say if there is P wave, there is QRS, but no T wave. Sometimes there may be T wave, there is no P wave, and there is direct start of QRS complex. So it is the disturbance of sinus rhythm. So first of all, always check for the sinus rhythm, and then check for the number of big boxes. I am not sure if you guys can see, but okay, I'll just highlight it for you. Yeah. So these are the big boxes between these two consecutive R. Now we know that in one second there are 5 big boxes that cross the ECG paper. Cross the ECG machine in 1 second. The 5 big boxes cross. So how many big boxes will cross in 60 seconds, which is equal to 1 minute, and which is the time duration of the heart rate that we calculate, the number of beats in a minute, the number of beats in 60 seconds. So there are 300 big boxes which cross the machine in 60 seconds. So here you can see that there are 4 boxes between 2 hours. 4 boxes between 2 hours. So if you divide 300 by 4, you will get the exact heart rate. Now, there are some times that the patient's heart rate is not regular. It can be regularly irregular, or it can be irregularly irregular. At that time, what you have to do, how many boxes you can see between 2 consecutive hours, just take an average of that and try to determine, and then clinically correlate it with the pulse or by your stethoscope. So this is how you calculate the heart rate in ECG. That is 300 divided by the number of big boxes between 2 consecutive R waves in your standard limb lead 2. Okay. Now, what is axis deviation and what does axis deviation tell you about? Axis deviation, axis basically, axis of the ECG is the major direction of the electrical activity. As I said, it is the cumulative effect of all the vectors that are seen in the heart and that I showed you earlier. It is the overall activity of the heart. It can be either normal. This is how the normal. Yes, this is how the normal axis will look like. That is, the R wave is in same direction. Either the R wave is pointing up. Both the directions are same. So this is a normal axis. Either it can be left axis deviation. Left axis deviation, you will see that in first of all, by for seeing axis deviation, you have to correlate the directions of R wave in lead 1 and lead 2. Sometimes you can also take lead A, V, F, but mostly you have to see lead 1 and lead 2. So these are both in same direction, that is up, and that is why it is normal. Okay, but sometimes what happens is you can see that R wave in lead 1 goes above and R wave in lead 2 goes downwards. That is, they are leaving each other. Leaving. So leave is L, that is left axis deviation. Okay, and sometimes you can see that the R wave in lead 1 is going down, exactly opposite of that of left, and R wave in lead 2 is going up. That is, they are reaching each other. Because they are reaching each other, that is R, right axis deviation. It is not like because they are leaving, it is known as left axis, because they are teaching, it is known as right axis. It is not like that. It is left axis deviation because there is some problem with the left side of the heart. It is right axis deviation because there is some problem with the right side of the heart. So you can find left axis deviation in, say, left ventricular hypertrophies, left bundle branch blocks, or you can see right axis deviation in right ventricular hypertrophies or right side heart failures, and for cor pulmonalis, or say in right bundle branch block. So this can also tell you, if you have cor pulmonale, you have to go back to your clinical thinking, and you have to understand there is some problem with the pulmonary circulation. So you have to go back and correlate it with pulmonary congestion, pulmonary hypertension. That is how you have, and you understand there's some problem with respiratory system too. Well, that is all that I'll tell you again. Okay, so this is how you determine what is the axis deviation, whether it is right axis deviation, whether it's left axis deviation, and if the axis deviation, according to which side the axis is deviated, it will tell you which side of the heart is affected. It can also be isoelectric. It is sometimes when the patient is too hefty and they have too much of impedance, matlab, so much of fat that the electric current, the electrical activity of the heart cannot be recorded on the surface. So then you have to change the lead placement and see. Now we come to the next individual components of the individual waves of the ECG. We'll start with P wave. So the normal P wave is always, as you saw here, the normal P wave is always 2.5 blocks, 2.5 blocks, which is equal to, normally equal to, say, 0.08 to 0.12 seconds, and a half big box in length. So you know that if the P wave is going more than one big box in height, there is some problem. If P wave is very big, it's taking an entire big box in length, there is some problem. One thing you need to understand in P wave is the accelerating part. That is the part that goes up in P wave is due to right atrial depolarization, which happens first because SA node is in the right atrium, and the descending part is due to left atrial depolarization or end of atrial depolarization. Because left part of atrium, someone's mic is on, please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. And the decelerating part is for left atrial depolarization. Okay, now there are pathological P waves. The pathological P waves are P pulmonale, because there is pulmonary congestion. Please mute your mics, guys. Please mute your mics. Um, so there is P pulmonale. P pulmonale is basically seen when the patients are suffering from pulmonary congestion. Because of pulmonary congestion, there is backflow to your right atrium where there is right atrial enlargement. And if the muscles of heart is enlarged, they will be working more. The amplitude of the current generated by these muscles will be more, and that is why you'll see a larger deviation in the wave, larger current deviation in the wave, and that is why you get a big pointy P wave, which is known as P pulmonale. Sometimes there may be left atrial enlargement, which will show biphasic P wave, and due to mitral stenosis, you will see a bifid P wave. Here you can see the P wave is bifid because there is delay in the contraction of these muscles, or say overloading of left atrium again, because mitral valve is stenosis. So the left atrium will be contracting for a longer time, and the right atrium will be contracting for a lesser time. So there will be a kink in the actual combined deviation, which you can see here. There's an M-shaped form. This is a bifid P wave, which is known as P mitral. Okay. Now you have to remember all these individual things, because when we will be seeing a complete ECG, you have to go step by step. Then there is a PR segment. PR PR segment is from end of P end of atrial depolarization to start of ventricular depolarization, which is the delay at AV node. It is again usually 2.5 small boxes, which is 0.08 to 0.12 seconds. Normally the PR interval is approximately the PR interval, okay, not the PR segment. PR interval, that is start of the depolarization, atrial depolarization to start of ventricular depolarization, is usually one big box, because P wave is 2.5 box. Again, PR segment is 2.5 box, so it makes one big large box. So if there is prolonged PR segment, मतलब atrial depolarization हो गया है, but अभी तक ventricular depolarization start नहीं हुआ है, तो दोनों के बीच में गैप है, then what does it mean? That there is some conduction block from AV node to bundle of His, because when the bundle of His is excited, you get QRS complex, and when the AV node, the current is still moving from AV node to bundle of His, you get PR segment, which is this and this. So that is why you know that there is delay here at the conduction, and there's some problem with the conduction. That is the significance. Now QRS complex, we saw that why you get Q negative, R positive, P and S negative again. It is usually same as P wave, that is 2.5 or 3 small boxes in length. That is again it will be 0.08 to 0.12 seconds. If now what does this QRS segment tell you about the atrial? Where is this generating from? If the QRS complex is very narrow, this is about pathological, okay, not normal, because normal QRS complex is originated from the ventricular depolarization. But sometimes what happens is you have pathological atria. Pathological atria, the conduction is not proper, or the contraction depolarization is not proper, because of which there is overlapping of the current, and you may get a steep current where you can see a narrow QRS complex, which is supraventricular in origin, pathological QRS complex. And if you have wide QRS complex, very wide, it is taking a long time, there is pathology in the ventricle. Okay? Pathology in the... Okay, please mute your mics. Yes. And then there is QT interval. QT interval, as we know, start from the depolarization of ventricles to end of repolarization of the ventricles. Okay, we are time limit we have. Okay, fine. We'll still continue first. Okay. Normal normal QT interval is usually 0.44 seconds. You can say it is up to 10 small boxes. Matlab, you know that 2.5 small boxes QRS complex and the rest 7.5 boxes will be ST segment plus T wave. That is from Q, from here to T. Okay. Now, if there is prolonged QT interval or say prolonged ST segment, थोड़ा wide broad हो गया है, time ज़्यादा लग रहा है, more than 10 boxes, 10 small boxes it is taken, then what are the reasons of this happening is there can be ischemia. There is no proper blood supply. There's some problem with the coronary blood supply of the heart, and or there may be problem in muscle contraction. When will the there will be problem in the muscle contraction when there is lack of calcium, that is in hypocalcemia. If the QT interval or the ST segment is very shortened, then there is hyperkalemia. इतना सारा कैल्शियम है कि फटाफट contraction हो रहा है. Then the significance of ST segment is that there may be sometimes ST segment elevation, there may be ST segment depression, or there may be ST segment in the T wave inversion. Will come to T wave later. So elevation of ST segment is usually seen in ST segment elevated myocardial infarction. This is the last state and full-fledged myocardial infarction. Sometimes earlier to that, we may get only ST segment depression or inversion of T wave. That is the time when you have to actually, sorry, who's doing that? Please do not write on my board. You get ST segment depression or inversion of T wave. That is the time when you have to check for the enzymes in the blood. What are the enzymes you check for? CKMB, TROP-T, TROP-I. That is the time when you know if the positive enzymes are positive, you know it is going to lead to myocardial infarction. It is a myocardial infarction, but it is non-ST segment elevated. Now we'll go to T wave. So T wave inversion, I already told you, is ischemia. Normal T wave is usually one big box in height, and you know, along with ST segment and T wave, it will take 7.5 small boxes. Flattened T wave is usually due to lack of potassium, which will give you this flattened, don't move my hand. This will give you this flattened T wave. If there is excess of potassium, that is hyperkalemia, there will be raising of the T wave, that is, it may go up to 1.5, 2 big boxes in the height, and sometimes it may even surpass the R wave. That is hyperkalemia. And then you have this though I already showed that ST segment, if it is prolonged, there is hypocalcemia. If it is shortened, that is hypercalcemia. Okay. Now the normal sinus rhythm. What I already told you, the normal sinus rhythm is every P wave followed by a QRS complex followed by a T wave. Third, if there is any deviation from this normal sinus rhythm, it is known as arrhythmia. Arrhythmia is of two types. Either it can be bradycardia or it can be tachycardia. Bradycardia is usually when the heart rate is less than 60 beats per minute. Tachycardia when it is more than, earlier it was 90, now it is 100. So 100 beats, if the heart rate is more than 100 beats per minute, it is tachycardia. Bradycardia and tachycardia both can be physiological or pathological. Physiological bradycardia is seen in athletes because they have made their cardiovascular system so strong that their stroke volume in one depolarization is so much that it is sufficient for their body, and they do not need more heart rate. They do not need more frequency of heart pumps. So in less heart pumps, the body is sufficient with blood supply. Physiological tachycardia is usually seen in anxiety, panic situations, like you all go for your vivas or exams. What happens to you is physiological tachycardia. What are the types of pathological bradycardia? You know, bradycardia is when the heart is beating slow. The heart is beating very slow. So, as I told you, in standard continuous lead 2, you have to always watch for disturbance in sinus rhythm. You may either get bradycardia, tachycardia, or normal sinus rhythm. In bradycardia, there are three, it will usually lead to heart blocks, or the cause of that is heart block. So how do you determine, and how do different three types of heart blocks are seen in the ECG? There are three kinds of heart blocks, three types: first degree, second degree. Second degree is further divided into two types, and then there is third degree heart block. The first degree heart block is determined by successive increase in PR interval. If you see here, P wave, and this is the PR interval. Just show. This is the P. Okay. This is the PR interval of this. This is the PR interval of this. PR interval, PR interval. With every wave, the PR interval is increasing. This is the first degree heart block. Then second degree heart block, it is of two types: type 1 Mobitz 1 and type 2 Mobitz 2. Type 1 is also known as Wenckebach's heart block. Here, there is progressive prolongation of PR interval. There's progressive is the same way how it was in heart block 1, but what happens here is, after the progressive increase in PR interval, there is a QRS complex that is dropped. Matlab, you will miss one QRS complex. Please mute your mics. Okay, so this PR interval is increased from in every QRS every successive PR interval, the time is increased, and which is followed by a drop in the QRS complex. This is heart block type 1, Mobitz 1. Now there is Mobitz 2. In Mobitz 2, what happens is, there is equal PR interval. There is no change in the PR interval, although after some time you can see that one QRS complex is dropped. There is drop of QRS complex without successive increase in PR interval. This is type 2, but Mobitz type 2. Third heart block is, there is irregularity between all P wave, QRS complex, T wave. कौन सा भी wave कभी भी आएगा, atria will be contracting by its own this thing. The QRS complex will be, the ventricles will be contracting with their own rhythm. There will be no coordination between any depolarization and repolarization of the heart. That is what you see in type 3 heart block. Okay, now we'll move. Yes. Now, okay, there's a problem. There's a limit in this. I'll just show you. Okay. Pathological tachycardia. We saw what were pathological bradycardia types of heart blocks, and now we will see what are pathological tachycardias. So there is fibrillation first of all, and when this fibrillation is a very fast conduction of current, where you can or you may or you may not recognize the types of waves that are being formed. Although in atrial fibrillation, you can see that there are QRS complex that you can recognize, but it is irregular. See the distance between first two consecutive QRS complex next to this distance is less, this distance is less. So there is change in the, it is very irregular. The heartbeat is irregularly irregular. Okay. So this is this kind of graph you see in atrial fibrillation. Now there is ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation. Also, if you guys notice, we read that when atrial or supraventricular generation of pathological QRS complex will always be narrow. So you can see here that those in atrial fibrillation, the QRS complexes are narrow as compared to those in ventricular fibrillation. Ventricular fibrillation not able to understand what waves are. You cannot recognize the waves, and in ventricular tachycardia, you can see that the waves are broader, which are ventricular in origin, ventricular pathologies. So this is supraventricular, this is ventricular, this is ventricular fibrillation. Other supraventricular you can see is paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. So supraventricular pathology, the other supraventricular pathology is PSVT. The difference between atrial fibrillation and PSVT, as you can see here, you cannot recognize the T waves or P waves here. There are only R waves, QRS complexes, but very vague QRS complexes in atrial fibrillation. In paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia, you can at least see that there are T waves, some T waves with ST elevation. The QRS complexes are regularly spaced, although there is loss of P waves. Okay. The thing is that this PSVT will lead to atrial fibrillation sometimes. When this becomes irregular, it will lead to atrial fibrillation. Then you have ventricular premature ventricular complexes, PVCs, which are in normal ECG. Sometimes there are abnormal this wave-like pattern, which is indication of sudden electric transfer or electric current generation in the ventricles. You can see it is broader, so you know it is ventricular in origin, and this will mostly lead to ventricular tachycardia, which will lead to ventricular fibrillation. Is sudden jerky movement, मतलब heart is contracting ऐसा पूरा heart is contracting a very large intensity. There is no way the electric current or the ECG can record that what is happening. Everything is happening as like everything is happening very fast. So in PSVT, we saw that someone is asked to repeat PSVT. Yes, in PSVT, it is supraventricular tachycardia. Origin is from supraventricular region where the atria are not contracting properly. There is always overlapping of their depolarization with QRS complex. You will see you can identify QRS complexes, but they are evenly placed. QRS complexes are evenly placed as compared to atrial fibrillation. There is irregularity in the atrial fibrillation, irregularity in the R waves. Okay. Now, the other cardiac pathology that can be identified by ECG is LVH and RVH. LVH, the left ventricular hypertrophy, RVH, right ventricular hypertrophy. There is a Sokolov-Lyon's criteria. I'm so sorry, Sokolov-Lyons criteria, which says that if you calculate the S waves in V1, that is chest lead 1, and R waves in V5, chest lead 5. If it is more than 35 millimeter, we saw that one small box is equal to 1 millimeter. So if you calculate these and if you add them, this V1 and V5, and if you add them, if it is more than 35 mm, there probably is left ventricular hypertrophy. Please check for left axis deviation, because you know that left axis, there will be left axis deviation in case of left ventricular pathologies. Then the criteria for right ventricular hypertrophy says that R in V1. One thing you need to understand is it can be V5 or it can be V6. The criteria says that you can either calculate it by R wave in V5 or in V6. Same goes for right ventricular hypertrophy. You have to see R wave in V1 and S1 in V5 or V6 lead, and you have to add them and see if it is more than 11. If it is more than 11, there probably is right ventricular hypertrophy associated with P pulmonale. As you know, why will there be right ventricular hypertrophy? There will be backflow from the pulmonary trunk, pulmonary aorta to the right ventricle, and there is right axis deviation. Obviously, we know because there is right heart pathology. Now, the other thing that ECG helps us to see is right bundle branch block and left bundle branch block. So, what you see in right bundle branch RBB or right bundle branch bundle branch block is so sorry is there will be M shape. You guys can see here the ECG in RBB, all V1, V2, V3. You can see here there is M shape. M shape. Why do you get this M shape in R wave? So what happens is there is, as you know, bundle of His is divided into two branches, the right and left. Now there is blockage in the right bundle branch block. Matlab, the electrical conduction in left side of the ventricle is good. The left side of the ventricle is contracting, but the electrical currents cannot reach the right side of the ventricle, right side of right Purkinje fiber. So there will be delay in their contraction. Thus, when the left side is already contracted, the right side hasn't. But by the left, the intensity in the left contraction decreases, the right fire up, and you get a M. So this is because of the overlapping or in coordination between the contraction of two sides of the sides of the ventricles, right and left ventricle. Same goes with left bundle branch block. Although you can see there is deepening of Q wave in this condition, and you get W shape in the Q wave. So this is also, I think it is cut here, but you can see there are two waves. So easy way to remember is RBB, R wave, it will show M, and LBB, the Q wave, sorry, I'm so sorry, not Q wave, S wave. The S wave will show W. This is how you remember RBB and LBB. Definitely check for left axis deviation in LBB and right axis deviation in RBB. So there is all these pathologies you won't get individually in MRI. You have to see for everything. Whenever I know, whenever the ECGs are asked in spots, you have very less time. So you need to practice and practice so that you are efficient in dealing with it. 10 seconds, 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes, no? Spot. Yes. Okay. So then the major condition in which you require ECG for diagnosis, although guys remember ECG is not gold standard diagnosis for any condition, for any say metabolic, for cardiac or respiratory condition, it is not gold standard. You have to correlate it with your clinical findings, as well as take other measures of evaluation. For pulmonary, you can take HRCT, you can take CT. For ECG also, you can take, for heart conditions also, you can take USG, 2D echo and all, and then correlate it. It's not gold standard. So here is the I'm showing you the ECG changes in MI. What are the ECG changes that you can see in normal MI is that you can see here, you guys already know this is, yes, leaving each other, which is left axis deviation. This is how you go about. You first see if it is standardized. Yeah, this is a standard ISO standardization mark to see if it is okay. It should be 2 blocks. You see if the ECG is standardized. Yes, it is 2 blocks, correct. Then here you see standard lead 2 ECG. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 big boxes between two consecutive R waves. These are all artifacts not recorded properly. The patient is probably moving, or some other currents from the body are being recorded. You can see each P wave here. P wave is there. Yes, you see the P wave. It is small, almost half of the big box, or a little smaller than that. But there are some problem here. If you see, in ABR, you can see there is a W. Yes. Okay. So this is indicating there is LBB. Yes, because you got left axis deviation, you got LBB here, and this is basically T wave. This is T wave. You can see there is ST segment elevation, major ST segment elevation, T wave depression in V1, V2, V3, even V4 shows ST. Although V5, no, there is no elevation, a little depression in V6, you can see. Now correlate this with whatever changes in V1, V2, V3, V4. Majorly it is anterior wall, septal wall. V2 to V4, V1 to V2. And now you know with this that your LAD, your left coronary artery, left descending, left anterior descending coronary artery is being affected, affecting the anterior and septal wall of the heart. This is how you will interpret your ECG in MI. Okay, now you guys, I have one ECG for you all. Quickly take photo or screenshot in your phone, whatever you want to, or else I'll and interpret this ECG. You know here, see the HR, see the axis deviation, see where is the T wave involvement, see the QRS complexes. Yeah, one thing I forgot to tell you, in ECG, there will always be deepening of Q wave. You can see R wave is very small, but the Q wave is very big and deep. This deepening of Q wave in MI, which is a major factor. Okay, so here we conclude today's lecture. I guess I do not have time for ergonomics. I am sorry, guys. No time for ergonomics. Okay, now we'll see doubts. Whatever doubts you have, please put it in the chat box. Okay. Yes, Meros, AVR is augmented limb lead, which is of the right hand, which we attach it to the right hand. It is a unipolar lead, which helps you to view the heart from one frontal plane direction, which is perpendicular to the center of the chest from the right hand. Okay, which lead to see on ECG strip to detect any pathology. Himalaya, I said lead 2 is the standard limb lead. You'll always first see the changes in standard limb lead and then go to chest leads. Although augmented lead are of less importance, you can see it for axis deviation and some kind of pathologies where you need to infer the inferior part of the heart, for which you have to see your AVF. Okay. Could you please explain the RS wave again? You mean QRS wave? The QRS wave starts from the depolarization of septum of the heart till the base of the all the cardiac tissue at AV, the AV septum are being depolarized. So it goes from bundle of His to the Purkinje fibers to entire cardiac tissue covering the entire ventricle, which gives you QRS complex. Q is negative because of the vector, R is positive because of the same, and S is again directed upwards towards the negative charge, and that is why it is negative. How can you diffuse lung disease cause tall P wave? Yes, Richa. You know that respiratory system and cardiac system goes hand in hand. Your respiratory and your cardiac system will always go hand in hand. If you recall the normal circulation of the heart, all the vena cavas will drain the deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. From right atrium, it will go to your right ventricle. Right ventricle to pulmonary trunk, it will go to your pulmonary circulation. Now, because the pulmonary circulation is not proper, or you can pulmonary circulation, you know that it is right, the ascending p wave is because of right atrium, and the descending p wave is due to the left atrium. Now what happens is, because there is pulmonary overload, there is right atrial enlargement, as well as there is right ventricular enlargement, and as well as there is left atrial enlargement. Because the pulmonary circulation is not working properly, the input of the pulmonary circulation and output, maybe due to mitral stenosis, there is overload, because of which there is hypertrophy of atria, which will lead to excess electrical conduction in atria, which will lead to tall E wave. Can you please repeat PSVT? Yes, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. I already read that and repeated. Can you open the last ECG again? We have to interpret. Yes. In the end of the session, I'll do it. Wait a second. How can a diffuse lung disease called? I already explained it. Why lead to is specifically the standard one? Yes, I did explain that. Why is lead to standard? Yes, just a second. I'll start sharing my screen again. Okay, I hope you are able to see. Okay, now you know that lead 2 is okay. Now lead 2 goes like this. This is your left arm. This is sorry. This is your right arm. This is your left arm. This is your left foot. Okay. So the lead 2 goes like this. The negative charge is here, positive charge is here. It is connected to a galvanometer, which will show you positive or negative reflection. So because the combined vector, the major vectors of the heart are always in this direction. This is the major muscle bulk, which will give the major length of this vector, the extreme length of this vector, and the other vectors are like very small and negligible. These vectors, as we know, are very small and negligible, and that is why the standard movement is from this negative pole to this positive pole, which is usually lead 2. This is lead 1. This is lead 1, where L is positive, R is negative, and where L is right hand is negative and left leg is positive. This is lead 3. This is lead 1 and this is lead 2. So because the major electric flow is in this direction along this diagonal, that is why you always have to take this as your standard limb lead. Is that clear? Okay. Now I had to show the this. Right. So sorry. So I hope you guys, when now in sports, you've been asked to interpret an ECG, it will be easy for you guys to do that. Always start from HR, see the axis deviation. Please mention all this in your interpretation, not just that the ECG shows MI. Even if you tell that it is MI, say which part, you know that which leads in, show which part of the heart, represent which part of the heart, it is anterior or septal, or how to calculate PR interval. Yeah, PR interval, all, any interval, any segment will be calculated as one box, one small box is equal to 0.0 second, which was at the start of the lecture. That is why I tell you, do not come late, do not enter late, do not miss a part. Okay, no problem, I'll show you again. Yeah, this one small box is 0.04, one big box in horizontal is 0.2 seconds. So does you know, you start from this, start calculating one small box, two small box, three small box, four small box. And this is how you calculate three, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 into 0.04. So you know it is 0.016, sorry, 0.16. Yes, now can you please share this PPT after the session ends? Yes, sure, I will share it. Okay, any more doubts? Okay, I guess time's up now. The app's not giving me extra time. Okay, so I guess the remaining ergonomics and all for final years, will be doing it tomorrow. Thank you guys for being such a wonderful audience. Hope you guys will be able to do your own ECG now, interpret your own ECG, practice as much as you can. It will help your clinical practice. Okay, thank you so much.